political commentator Sanusha Naidu joins us now via Skype for more on this ongoing chaos in Nelson Mandela Bay. Sanusha, good afternoon to you. And many are saying that there was possibly a deliberate strategy of disruption today. How are you reading it? Do you think that's true?
Good afternoon, Jeremy. It's difficult to tell because I think that it's been a very contentious issue in the run-up to the actual deliberation around the no-confidence vote. We've seen a lot of different mutterings and expressions emerging around how people have reacted to it. We've seen political parties saying what they're going to do, etc. But I think this actually demonstrates to us how contested that metro is in the context of a coalition government that's falling apart, in the context of the kinds of what's at stake in terms of how this is going to be an ongoing saga in the landscape of South Africa. And we've seen this not just in the context of maybe the provincial elections of the ANC at the party level, but now it's spilling over into the actual so-called structures of local government in terms of the ill discipline and the way in which these different structures are being manipulated in the way that they've been, the resources and in terms of how political parties are fighting out their battles within these structures.
Do you think something's changed in the climate? If you look at what transpired in the metro today, it seemed that things were a lot more aggressive, a lot more forceful than we've perhaps seen in the past.
Indeed, I think that what we've seen in terms of what happened today, where there was actually no respect for anything, whether the speaker was coming out trying to create order in terms of the rules around which I stand corrected and I'm not familiar with, but in terms of the rules of the decorum of the House in which you actually conduct the spirit and the meeting in itself, I think all of that went out of the window. And I think what we're beginning to see in a pre-election year is a lot of aggressiveness in terms of where this where the polity of the country is going and what is at stake in the run-up to next year's election and the actual election itself.
The leader of the Democratic Alliance saying on the sidelines today, and he said this before, that coalitions are the future of South Africa. So are we going to see a lot more of this post-2019, do you think? Are politics, the polity as you refer to it, is it going to become more contested, more chaotic, more fractious?
Indeed, I think that when you start getting into the politics, the coalition politics and politics of coalition, it's very difficult to actually satisfy your coalition partners. I think we have, we are probably looking at it in South Africa and saying what's going on, because it's actually degenerated in terms of the fragmentation and the fractious nature of it. But you just got to look at a country like India, where that whole system actually thrives on coalition politics. And the kinds of tensions that emerge around that is much more intense. So I think in the coming months and in terms of beyond 2019, we have to start thinking about whether the kinds of coalition partners you get into bed with, are they the ones that you're going to stay with? Because at the end of the day, I think the testimony is what we're seeing in Nelson Mandela Bay.
That's a fair point. I understand that it's all about political expediency, but often these political parties have no choice but to go into coalition if they want to retain or at least hold some semblance of power.
Yes, but at the same time, they also have to remember that those are very fragile partnerships and coalitions. And of course, there's a constant change in the way in which the political partnership tends to ebb and flow. So at the one level is your political expediency to stay in power and to gain power, in the sense that, if you look at the case study of the DA in the Eastern Cape, in particular in the metro, you see that in terms of how it wanted to retain power or capture power in that city. But at the end of the day, they haven't satisfied their coalition partners. And so one of their partners kind of responded to them, whether it was about the national debate on the expropriation of land issue, and the fact that there was a tension between the DA and the EFF in the National Assembly, or was it because there was a sense that we can now try and push the envelope and push the boundaries? So I think it's a very delicate and a very, very contested space where you have to be careful in terms of what goes on, because it's as you easily get the power, you easily become contained or constrained by it, because you're not sure whether or not your partners are moving in the same direction as you.
All right, Sanusha Naidu, thank you very much indeed, political commentator, writer and analyst.